The paragraph observation tool is part of Observation, the second reading. The goal of the tool is help you understand the message contained in a paragraph. Everything in a paragraph is connected to a single idea, so our goal is to look for that single idea, that main idea, and see how the other parts of the paragraph are connected to it. So there are a couple of things you can do to help you get there. I have an example here from Philemon verses 8 to 11, and we're going to look at those tools to help us identify the topic as the main idea. We're going to look at things like keywords, repeated words or ideas, contrasts. Those three things will help us identify what the themes are in the paragraph. Once we've chosen those themes or identified those themes, choose then which one you think is the main theme, or we call that the topic. Then write a summary statement summarizing the paragraph. So if you want to pause the video, you can attempt this yourself and then press play when you're done. Looking at this paragraph, the key words that jumped out to me were these ones here that I've highlighted. And it's okay just to highlight whatever words you think are key words, and as you proceed you might find some of them are not and others are. Then look for repeated words or ideas. I've seen here that appeal is repeated in verse 9 and 10. Paul's imprisonment he speaks about twice in verse 9 and 10. And so though they're not this identical word, the idea is the same here. What are some contrasts that appear in these verses? I see three. Paul could command, yet he makes an appeal. These are two very different ways to get things done. He speaks of a child and a father in verse 10. These are contrasting relationships. And he speaks of Onesimus, formerly useless, now useful. These are contrasting ideas. What themes then emerge as we observe these things? Well, the theme of authority seems to be there. Appeal is there as Paul makes an appeal. Imprisonment is there because of the repeated idea here. And relationship. Paul says it is on the basis of love that he makes this appeal. And he speaks of Onesimus as a child and himself as a father. So that speaks of the theme of relationship. It's clearly important. What is the topic though? As we look at all of the parts and how they might relate to each other, what do we think is the topic? I've chosen an appeal for Onesimus. And why did I choose that as the main idea? A strong evidence to me that this is the topic is in verse 9 and 10, twice Paul says, I appeal to you. And so it's repeated strongly. Also, contrasts are used in the paragraph to highlight this theme, and it seems to make the best sense of all of the others. Well, how does it connect to the others? Well, if you look at verse 8, Paul's appeal is in contrast to his authority to command, which he could do. In verse 9, his appeal is based on love. His appeal is based on loving relationship with Onesimus, verses 9 and 10. And verse 11, his appeal is also based on the usefulness of Onesimus. Now, how would I summarize this? I would try to be careful to use the author's words as much as possible. But as I summarize, I would write this. Paul appeals to Philemon to do what is required, which is not yet specified in this paragraph, for the sake of love for Onesimus and because he has become useful.